In a world gone mad, this is loving, caring, sharing.
This is a good cigar. How about you, Scotty? It's a good one?
Very good. Yeah, very good.
How about you, Pat?
It's good. I got it. I finally got it lit.
Yeah, all right, good. We finally got things together here. That's right. It's Friday night. That means it's one thing and one thing only. It's loving, caring, and sharing. Yes, Mark Mercer's Loving, Caring, and Sharing here on North Star Radio. Well, I've been looking forward to this for a while. This is a special night for me for a lot of reasons, and I'll get to all that shortly. There's a couple things I want to get to first before we get too far into tonight's program. One of them is I want to remind everybody. Well, we had Kim Paris here on the show. What was that? 2 weeks ago? Daniel, do you remember? I forget now.
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
Is that right, Steve? All right. So 2 weeks ago we had Kim Paris on, and she is the organizer for rallyforcommonsense.org. Now, for those of you who may not be aware of the rallyforcommonsense.org, what that's about is well, we may not agree on who the Republican president candidate should be. We may not share precisely the same social views. We do agree on the constitutional principles of smaller government, a balanced budget, lower taxes, and less federal interference in our lives. We, the people, are coming, and we want our power back. It's common sense. On May 19th, the Rally for Common Sense will be held in the Patriot Field of Dreams. So go to rallyforcommonsense.org and get signed up. There are still some tickets left. It's $10, which is nothing. That's just covering the cost of renting the field. Going to be speakers there like Herman Cain and just a whole bunch of people that are going to be showing up that day. And like I said, just go to the website. You'll find out everything you need to know about the Rally for Common Sense, and that is rallyforcommonsense.org. Also, I'd like to remind everybody that if you go to northstar-radio.com, there is a donate page there, and you can make sure that you can ensure that the programming on North Star continues as it is if you would just take time to make a small donation. Steve, could you tell everybody how that works?
Well, when you go to the donate page, it will direct you to PayPal. You can set up an account there if you don't already have one and make a donation using your credit or debit card. You can also make a donation directly from your bank account. And everything that is provided here through North Star is done fully commercial-free, which means that when you listen to the programming here, there are no commercials. You hear great music, great original programming, all free of charge. And so any donation will help to defray the cost of broadcasting and the other expenses that are involved in running a radio station.
That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to... all right. I want to get to my guest for this evening. And also, I just want to introduce the gang that we have here with us tonight. Joining us... at the last minute, no less, is my dear old friend Scotty Kleber. I'm sorry, Kleber. How you doing, Scott?
I'm well, Mark.
I'm glad you could make it tonight. So just great to have you on board.
Yeah, me too.
And, of course, we have my MOA out there, actually down in Florida right now, preparing for a long journey home. And that's my MOA, Steve Deloach. Steve, I presume you're doing well today, well fed, I imagine?
I'm doing very well, thanks to Colhane's Irish Pub right across the street from my hotel. Wonderful food.
Yeah, you've been bragging about it all week.
Yes, it's very good. You should come down, Mark.
I should. I really should. And, of course, we have my producer joining us from all the way over in England, and that's Daniel Davison. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
That's my boy.
And, of course, I'm not quite as well-fed as Steve is.
Neither am I. I think we should start some sort of a anonymous program, Underfed Anonymous. You know,
I think we should as well.
something like that.
Or maybe a dieting anonymous for me. That might be the thing that I need to join.
Oh, that's a real, you know, that's a good organization.
Funnily enough, I've just been talking to somebody about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to help you start it up.
Yeah, right. Pat's got an idea. He's rubbing his tummy. Well, anyway, speaking of Pat, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about this all week, and of course, joining me now here at Loving, Caring, Sharing Studios is Pat Gillen. How are you tonight, Pat?
I'm great, Mark.
I'm glad you could make it over. I know you had a busy week and stuff, and I'm glad you took time out from your schedule and your evening home with your family to be able to be with us. And I guess I should give a little bit of a background so you guys have an idea. Who's Pat Gillen? Who is this guy? You guys all know that I got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous back in August of 1981. I ended up in a rehab. One of the first guys to reach out to me was this guy named Bobby Carr, and I told him I was going to go to rehab, and I didn't need to go to no AA meetings or nothing, but thanks for calling anyway. And when I hung up on him, my old man said, I'm going to have to call Pat Gillen. And because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And what happened was I did my 28 days at Fairmount Institute. I got out. I went to a couple meetings, and then I went to this meeting this one night over at North Penn Hospital. Mm-hmm. And in comes this guy. This guy my age, and he's all 5'2", and he's surrounded by guys that are 6'6", 6'5". He's got Frank. He's got all these guys with him, these goons, and they were Pat's pigeons. And my dad introduced me. My dad had been in AA for a few years at that time, and he said, I think you ought to meet Pat. Pat's he's got solid sobriety. He got sober when he was 16 and
17.
What?
17.
17? Okay. And anyway, he said you should hook up with this guy. And I remember talking to Pat after the meeting. He gave me his phone number, and for the next 5 years, I lived in Pat's pocket. And my introduction to AA was Pat saying, I want you standing out on the corner for me tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and I'll pick you up, and we're going to a meeting. And I was so gone at that time, I didn't have any resistance left, that I'd be standing there, it'd be pouring rain, and he'd pull up in his little, didn't you have that little white Hornet back then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the mustache rides 5 cents.
Yeah, I remember. You remember that? And the windshield wipers, when you let off, you had to floor it so they would go. When you let off the gas, they would stop.
Yeah.
They ran on some kind of vacuum system.
Yeah, a typical alcoholic's car. It was great. Anyway, so Pat took me to meetings. Now, in AA, yeah, there's a few guidelines. There's things that like, what do you call? They're like the norm. When you start going to AA meetings, they recommend strongly that you go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Pat took me to 273 meetings in 90 days.
Oh, yeah, we went all the time.
We went all the time. Every night. On Fridays, we'd hit one at supper. We'd go to the 8:30. We'd hit the midnight, and then sometimes we'd have enough coffee in us by then. We'd go into a 2 o'clock in the morning meeting. We wouldn't get home till like 3 o'clock, and then there was all those times at Friendlies afterwards. We'd be up till the wee hours, and then the next day he'd call me on the phone and say, "Come on, we're going to a new meeting." I'm like, "Oh man, I haven't even had breakfast." That's all right. We'll eat on the way, and we'd meet up. We take off. We go to a meeting at noon. We go to one at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We hit one at dinner. Somewhere in the middle, we'd eat some food while we're drinking all this coffee. And so the weekends were like meetings we doubled up on like crazy. Now, a couple things I want to make clear here. And that is that what you're going to hear tonight are the opinions of Pat Gillen and myself. We're both members of AA, but what we're going to talk about tonight does not necessarily reflect the opinions of Alcoholics Anonymous at all. We're just two guys that got sober in AA, and I wanted to have Pat on here because, first of all, he's been one of my oldest friends. I've always just loved him to death, and even in the beginning, like I liked him right away. We just hit it off. I don't know, maybe it's Irish or whatever, but we hit it off right away. And Pat and I have a similar senses of humor, like getting in the same kind of mischief and pranking on people.
That would be a warped sense of humor. Is that right?
Yes, that'd be
very absolutely very warped.
Very.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that's right. He's very warped. And so anyway. When you go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and they bring the meeting to order, one of the first things they read is the AA preamble, and I'm going to read. Do you know it by memory by now? I'm 37 years later.
Yeah, but I don't want to stumble over.
Okay, all right. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contribution. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. All right. Now, having read that, what I want to do is I want to do what when you go to an AA meeting, it's a speaker discussion meeting. Typically what happens is that the chairman reads all this literature and stuff. Now it's so much literature, it's like volumes. It takes like 10 minutes to get through all the junk they talk about, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they
back
go on
in
and on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, back when we got sober, you went to a meeting, you sat down, they read stuff, it took about 90 seconds. Now it takes like 9 minutes for them to go all this stuff. And then they do this, they would always ask, usually at the coffee break, after the coffee break's over, they'd say, has anybody here got 90 days of sobriety? And then that'd be it. There wouldn't be like this whole thing. Right? Has anybody here got 91 days of sobriety? Anyone got 92 days of sobriety? Anybody got 3 days of sobriety? They do this ridiculous nonsense now of like, we got to make sure we recognize everybody that's got, 5 breaths of sobriety. And, of course, meanwhile, guys are sitting there with 20, 30, 40 years of sobriety. They're ignoring them. They'll never get to them. And we don't care about them. We want to about the guy with a day and a half of sobriety. Anyway, so then what would happen is the chairman, in this case, if this were an AA meeting, I'd be the chairman, and of course would introduce the speaker, and then the speaker would have, usually about 25 minutes to tell his whole story. And if he went over 25 minutes, usually the chairman nudges him, gives him a hard time. They start busting on him, and he's got to shut up. So telling your whole life story in 25 minutes, Pat and I got pretty good at. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the course of a guy's life, especially when you've been sober, 6 times longer than you drank. So, there's not just the drinking. There's all that's happened since you got sober. And sobriety in itself is a trip, And anyway, so Patrick has joined us here tonight, very graciously, I might add. How's that cigar, by the way?
It's very good. My mouth tastes like
an ashtray?
Yeah.
That's what we're shooting for.
It's doing its job.
Just want to make sure. Can I have those matches? Anyway, Pat, what I do, what I've done with Love and Caring Sharing really is I've always enjoyed interviewing people because what I find is there's people that I've come across, the people that I've interviewed in the past, guys like Bill Lumen, Rodney Smith, Connie Tedford, Steve DeLoach, my MOA. They all have passions. There's things about their lives that they're passionate about. All right, you and me, we have a common denominator of what happened in our lives when we were younger. And so I've kind of more or less modeled what I do by what happens in an AA meeting where the guy just tells a story. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is to simply tell everybody your story from the very beginning, from way back when you grew, from the day you were born.
Man, that's way back.
That's way back. Just pretend we're at an AA meeting and let her go.
Well, it all depends sometimes at AA meetings. Depends what kind of meeting it is.
Right.
I mean, if it's if you're an anniversary speaker, you're not going to tell a 40-minute drunkalogue with all the crazy stuff you did.
Right. Hopefully.
You're going to share some.
You get some guys like Roofer Sam. He'll tell you 99 minutes of drunk.
Yeah. Well, you're going to you want to share some hope with them. Now, if you're in a prison, if you're in Montgomery County Prison, you'll share a lot. That's all they're going to relate to is drinking and drugging and all the things you did.
Right.
Normally, when I speak at an AA meeting now, I'll usually talk about my drinking. I usually don't go back to my childhood a lot of times because you can get lost there. If you only got 25 minutes, you're.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting one time. The meeting started at 8, and the meeting was over at 9. It was 5 and 9. The speaker, he was just on fire. He wouldn't shut up, and he was still drunk at 5 and 9. And he says, he says, I'm so excited here. I could talk to the cows come home. Yeah. And some old guy yells from the back, they've been home for about a half an hour. So you got to watch that. You don't get stuck in that drunkalogue. But I'll talk about my childhood. I don't believe that my childhood has any direct result to me becoming an alcoholic.
Right.
I think that the environment, I grew up in a family of alcoholics. My father was an alcoholic, and I don't believe my mother was an alcoholic. I think she was a problem drinker.
Right.
Because she had stopped drinking one time and had no problem stop drinking. My father could not stop drinking. He was a member of AA also.
Rhinestone.
No, Rhinestone's Bobby's dad.
Oh, that's right, Bobby's dad. What am I saying?
He was the Gill.
Yeah, he was the Gill. That's right. What am I thinking?
Yeah, what a name.
It's been so long. Gill.
But I don't know. Growing up, I grew up. I had an older brother and an older sister.
Where were you born again?
We were in Philadelphia. I was born in Einstein Hospital.
Okay.
We lived in a row house in West Oak Lane in Philadelphia until 1969.
I see. I forgot that. I for some reason thought that you grew up in Ambler all those years.
Nah, 1969. I guess I was 11 years old. We moved to Ambler.
Okay.
West Oak Lane was a bad neighborhood at the time. In the the early '60s, it was a great neighborhood to grow up in. By the end of '69, there was racial riots.
Oh yeah, Philadelphia was coming unglued.
Yeah, it was unglued, and we wanted to get out of there. And my mother's boyfriend, Lou, who I guess he lived with us at that time. He moved us out into a single home in Ambler, and that was I think I was in 4th grade. And moving from there to Ambler was a big change. You know, when you're that age, I think it's like traumatic. You go to a new school, new friends.
Sure.
And right away, I fell in with the kids in school that like to fight, and